For the last 15 weeks, I've been growing out my leg hair, and I did it for you. You're welcome. Clarification. I only grew out one side because I'm into asymmetrical haircuts. Ow. But how hairy is it really? Is it a myth or a fact that once you chop off your leg, you can never shave that thing again? So why is shaving Stumpy so taboo? The way I heard it, the prosthetic liner is so tight against the skin that if you shave, you're going to get a ton of ingrown hairs. That sounds really serious. I mean, chopping off a leg, but ingrown hairs? Spare me! Or is it a big problem? You see, not only is this tight, but it traps in heat and moisture. It's a breeding ground for bacteria. Since I have a severed bone right here, if I get a skin infection right there, could it potentially spread to my bone? Bone infections can be life-threatening. So if I shave my leg, could I die? I don't know. Disclaimer, nothing in this video is medical or legal advice. If you think shaving your leg could kill you, probably shouldn't do it. That said, I talked with several doctors and my prosthetist before starting this experiment. None of them seemed too worried about me dying. So we're running with this experiment. Minus the actual running. We're going to do this in a few phases. Phase 1, get a baseline. How many ingrown hairs do I get when I grow out these lovely locks? How long do they get anyhow? When I Googled how long it takes to grow out leg hair, all I found was info about how frequently I should shave. Come on, people. I gave it 15 weeks, but should be enough. For reference, on the spectrum of naturally bald legs to super hairy legs, I'm probably somewhere in the middle. It's all relative. Phase 1. This is the embarrassing part where I show you my unshaved leg in all its glory. We'll keep it short. I counted 3 ingrown hairs. Not to split hairs or anything, but of those, only 1 was currently ingrown. The remaining 2 hairs looked like they had been ingrown, but the follicle was healing itself. And while we're here, we might as well measure the length of my hair. Not that hair. After 15 weeks of growth, most of my hair was about 3/4 of an inch, with the occasional overachiever. I'm not sure if my hair would have gotten longer if I'd given it more time, but I'm tired of having a hairy half leg. It's time to shave. I'm growing a beard. It feels so good to shave again. If you shave, then you know that not all razors are created equal. Over the years, the electric razors I've used don't seem to cut as close as disposable razors. Hence, I'm dividing them into 2 separate phases. For the next 3 months, I'll use the electric razor and see how many ingrown hairs I have on average at any given time. To minimize variables, I won't exfoliate the skin. It's surprisingly hard to make a Santa Claus beard out of shaving cream. I have 4 ingrown hairs. They aren't deep under the surface and could be easily freed. I'm strongly convinced that if I'd exfoliated, I'd have fewer ingrown hairs. While this is an increase in ingrown hairs over our baseline, it isn't dramatic, and so far, no infections, redness, or significant problems. Time for phase 3. Switching from an electric to a disposable razor may not sound like a big change, but it was. My skin was definitely more irritated, even though I was using a decent razor. I asked a dermatologist. He said it isn't just me. Disposable razors tend to irritate people's skin. I had tiny bumps, like a rash, all over my skin, and within those bumps were ingrown hairs. They looked like they were deeper under the skin than they were with the electric razor. I'm so tired of the disposable razor. Want to take a guess on how many ingrown hairs I have? I didn't believe it when I first counted, so I recounted several times. I had 49 ingrown hairs. You heard me right, 49. More than 10 times the number of ingrown hairs I had with the electric razor, and this was typical of the entire phase. Unlike with the electric razor, I don't think exfoliating would have prevented discomfort because the hair follicles themselves looked irritated. Okay, so I'm not a doctor, I can't guarantee it was the actual follicle, but I can assure you that I had zero desire to use a disposable razor on Stumpy ever again. Before moving on, can I just say that I risked life and limb making this video, depending on who you ask. Not to mention the embarrassment of showing my unshaved leg to the world. It took nearly a year to complete all the stages of this experiment, making this the single most time-intensive video I've ever made for you. If you appreciate my efforts, a thumbs up is a great way to show it. Moving on, an epilator is basically dozens of tiny spinning tweezers that rip out your hair, root and all. Some people like epilators because the results last longer than shaving. Other people hate it because ouch! Before the leg drama that led to my amputation, I used an epilator. I remember it would irritate my skin. It was different than the irritation from a disposable razor. It felt like ripping out the hair had left hundreds of pinprick holes in my skin, which stung if sweat got on them for the first day or two. After that, it was fine, so it wasn't a big deal. But now that I wear a prosthetic liner, for the last 15 weeks, I've been grown up. Oops. It keeps me warm in the winter. It was a concern for me, more so than shaving. I have no evidence to back up my opinion, but I feel like of all the hair removal options I've considered... Oh no! Hang on, coming! One that rips out the root is more likely to get infected or have problems than simply cutting the hair short. My hair fell off. That was easier than shaving. As such, I decided to forego epilators, waxing, Nair, and anything similar. It just didn't feel safe with the prosthetic liner. Plus, it would have made it impossible to carry out the next phase of our experiment. It's time to go big or go home. I'm going to try professional laser hair removal. This is only an option if I haven't recently used an epilator, waxing, or similar products that remove the root. Laser could be a long-term way to practically eliminate the possibility of ingrown hairs and avoid irritation caused by shaving. Plus, my dermatologist said it might even help heal the scar from my incision. Side note, a few years ago I tried an at-home device that's similar to laser, but I found the results inconclusive. I wasn't convinced it was doing a good job, so I eventually stopped using it. I don't know whether it would have worked if I'd given it a few more months, or maybe the models available today work better than they did a couple years ago. Point being, I can't offer an opinion on at-home devices. People like the home devices because they're relatively affordable and professional hair removal isn't. Or is it? I'm not rich, yet I was able to pay for laser sessions. How did I do it? Negotiating. Plain old negotiating. Hi, I was wondering how much laser hair removal costs? For a leg. No, not both legs, just one. You see, I've only got one. I joke that amputees should get half off pedicures. The same applies to laser, except it isn't that clear cut. Exactly what percentage of shavable leg do I have left? Half? More? Less? I don't know. And the salon workers I talked to certainly didn't know. That left a lot of room for negotiating. Also consider, throughout this experiment, most of my ingrown hairs were on my shin and around the knee. Above the knee, my hair is finer and less dense. Why not pay for only the problem area on my calf and knee? I was able to get a huge discount after pointing out how small the section of leg was that I wanted to have treated. Speaking of discounts, I waited months for the spa's Black Friday sale. A little patience can pay dividends. I also found a coupon for a free session. Between all these factors, I saved a lot of money. Also keep in mind, I'm not obligated to have both legs treated. Removing hair from this leg has nothing to do with avoiding ingrown hairs under a prosthetic liner on my amputated leg. I can shave my whole leg. Laser hair removal will never be as cheap as a disposable razor, but with a little creativity and a pinch of persuasion, you might be able to lower the price until it's attainable. I go in for a session every 6 weeks. It's been months, and it'll take a few more months before I see final results, but I'm already seeing a significant reduction in hair growth, irritation, and ingrown hairs. Between sessions, I use the electric razor and exfoliate the skin by rubbing it with a coarse towel to remove dead skin after shaving. I haven't noticed any ingrown hairs during this process. Once I've completed laser hair removal, there shouldn't be ingrown hairs to count because the hair will be essentially gone. I was told I'll still need to have a booster once or twice a year, so it's not quite permanent, but I can definitely see how laser could turn out to be a decent long-term solution for amputees.
A little zappy, but not bad. I mean, women do stuff like this to themselves all the time, and this is no worse than anything else.
First off, shaving didn't kill me, so that's a plus. Secondly, I think the results speak for themselves. The disposable razor was problematic, but the electric razor worked well, particularly when combined with exfoliating the skin. I know these conclusions might raise a few eyebrows in the amputee community. I kind of like what this does for my eyebrows. Laser hair removal is expensive, but a nice option if you can get it for an affordable price. And there's nothing wrong with letting your hair grow. Being a woman with a hairy leg is a cultural issue, not a medical one. Confession: before starting this experiment, I'd already been shaving my amputated limb for a year using an electric razor. That's why I had to grow out my hair to start the experiment, because it wasn't already grown. I'd seen other amputees make videos about the dangers of shaving, but from my own experience, I felt more likely to get hit by a car than to wind up in the hospital due to shaving. Hang on, the kitten's being noisy. Granted, we're all individuals, and some have more sensitive skin than others, so just because I didn't have any major problems doesn't mean that no one else would. Consider this video to be one data point, rather than a conclusive study proving that shaving is safe for amputees. This isn't advice that you should shave, I'm just sharing my experience. Consider this video to be one data point, rather than a conclusive study proving that shaving is safe for amputees. Stop it. This isn't advice that you should shave, I'm just sharing my experience. This past year, I've asked many doctors from a variety of specialties what their thoughts were on the shaving issue. They all told me it was fine to shave my leg. The closest I got to a word of caution was a wound care doctor who said it was theoretically possible for shaving to lead to an infection, but it was unlikely. My experiment supported what all the doctors said. I've been shaving my amputated leg for 2 years now with a variety of razors while using a variety of prosthetic liners, and I haven't had any serious issues. If I ever do spot a problem, I'll seek treatment right away rather than wait for an infection to spread and become a worst case scenario. Alright, kitten's wiggly. Hi, kitten. The moral of today's story isn't really about shaving. It's that you shouldn't film with a kitten, and also that when it comes to your body, it's important to seek qualified advice rather than just accept what the internet says. Sometimes we repeat what other people have said without stopping to look for concrete proof that it's true. In this case, not shaving probably wouldn't hurt you, but there's definitely unqualified medical advice online that could be dangerous. Our bodies aren't identical, and what works for one person might not be a good idea for another. Hence the importance of talking to medical providers that know you and your unique situation. After my quest for truth, I feel wiser and less hairy. Do you feel that way, kitten? As I make videos for you, I'll strive to do my best to present facts rather than hearsay. I'm Stefanina. Thank you for joining me on this hair-raising amputee adventure. Stop it!